This is what I made of my buffalo teepee, and the Syots live in Canada. Their teepees are made of buffalo. They travel with horses. They wear deer skin. They hunt buffalo to make their teepees, to have shade and to have food. There are geometrical and symmetrical art. And this is where I made my picture of the buffalo teepee. That is my Native American fire stripe.
How do they carry it around, though?
They fold it up and then they carry it so. They carry it so that you see this picture. They can squeeze it up and make it just like an umbrella thing to carry it around on their horses. What, Logan?
Where do they live at? Like what part of the world?
Canada. What's in?
What part of Canada?
Just
Other questions? All right. Why did you choose the teepee and not one of the different dwellings?
Because I like teepees, and my family actually sometimes when we go camping we bring a pretty big teepee. Tent. So I kind of like tent, so it kind of make me feel like doing a teepee. So they're basically the same thing.
Nice. Other questions? All right.
Good job, Vincent. I have a question.
So I did I forgot what it's
Iroquois.
Iroquois, Native Americans. They lived in the longhouse, and this is longhouse then, and this is longhouse now. Canoe then, canoe now. This is what they look like, just doing their stuff, building the longhouse. And here I made a longhouse picture of a longhouse, and they're still in progress because here's the stuff. Because you can see the outside, and they're still making the base of it. Ryan?
Where do they live?
I forgot to put that on there, but I think it's somewhere around Florida. Logan?
What do they eat?
I'm pretty sure they just ate like vegetables and fruits. Because they have a longhouse, and sometimes they would put like openings. It's like a greenhouse they made and stuff like that.
Maybe corn
So, I see your picture there. Did you couldn't just make it wider like the sticks?
No.
You didn't have enough time. Okay.
Any other questions? This was all?
A lot of people chose teepees, but you chose a longhouse. Tell me why you decided to do the longhouse.
Because I think longhouses are interesting. Just how long they are and how big they are, and what the Iroquois is a weird name for a tribe. And I was like, okay, I wonder who lived there. So I wanted to research about Iroquois.
How many families lived in one long house?
I would say about 10. Zane?
How tall was the long house? Not long, tall.
I would say about 50 feet, maybe.
No.
That's probably about how long it is.
Any other question? All right.
Good job, Skylar!
The Plains Indians lived in teepees, and they lived in central United States of the state where they lived in. And the Plains Indians usually ate buffalo, deer, and elk. And here's them with the teepees. And then I guess he's working with another teepee, and they all live together. Any questions? Leroy?
So where did they hunt?
I never said. What are the teepees made out of? They didn't say that either. They just said like teepees.
What do they eat?
And buffalo, deer, and elk.
Okay. What encouraged you to make that kind of, what is it called?
Teepee. It made me think, whenever I heard it on the papers and stuff, it reminded me because usually on every Saturday we always sleep in our teepee that we have at our house. But then one day it broke, so we just sleep in our rooms now. As well.
What do you think it would be like to be a Native American that lived in a teepee? What do you think the inside would be like?
Like really warm and
What would keep it warm?
probably because no air comes in. Like for cold nights, air never comes in. Any other questions? Leroy?
So why did they save their homes or anything like that? Could have been used for a weapon.
What would be their source of water?
I didn't find that.
I'm pretty sure that it would be in their stuff caves.
Did they eat any kind of vegetables?
No. So, like, how did they keep it warm in the teepee? Mainly because they locked up they had little strings that they could tie, and they always left the top one, they always closed the top one and then left the bottom one so in the morning they could get out whenever they woke up. Any other questions? Leroy?
Did they make any music and make their own calls so if they were in trouble?
They did have a backup plan, just in case.
What was that?
What would happen if a snake went through the bottom
Well,
hole?
then they most likely just kill it.
How tall were the teepees?
Probably like 10 feet. Any other questions?
How would they take it apart if they were moving spots?
Because they would take the cloth off and then it would be put on the top cloth after they went and found a new spot. But most of the time they'd stay in the same spot.
Oh, and how many families would, how many people could live in one?
Probably about 10 people, maybe. Because from Red said they had big teepees. Good job.
Seminole?
The Seminole tribe, they wear skirts in hibernate.
Palmetto.
And they eat corn, beans, and squash, and they transport. And Florida. And they did this tree. Logan.
Where did they live at?
He lives in Florida.
What food did they eat?
They ate corn, beans, and squash.
That's it?
Leroy,
How did they travel?
by canoe.
That's like mine.
Any more questions?
Ooh,
Yes?
do you know what art they made?
It doesn't really say it, so no, I don't know. Zane?
Did they own any pets?
No, it didn't say there. Logan?
What did they live in?
Huh?
What did they live in?
This?
What is it?
I don't know the name. It was like something about cheeky.
Oh, the Cheeky House?
Yeah, it's like the cheeky house.
Something like
And
that.
Reagan.
Like, how would they take their houses apart and build them back up?
They actually would just leave the house and they would build a new one. It's,
I noticed that their house is lifted off the ground, and Florida is near the ocean. Why do you think that they build their houses so that the house wasn't directly on the ground, that it was lifted off the ground?
so the water doesn't get into their house and they don't get all wet while they're sleeping. And they would climb to get up there, like climb to get in the house. Any more questions? Today we are going to learn about the Sioux tribe. This was the inside of their house. It was the travel house to follow bison and hunt them down. The Sioux tribe almost never wasted bison skin. They used bison fur to make teepees and clothing. Here's some pictures of bison skin. How they transported. They transported by horses and they carried spears to protect themselves and their tribe. Also, dogs followed them to bite or scratch enemies. Here's a picture of them transporting with dogs and horses. What they drew for fun. They drew deer, bison, horse, people with spears. They ate buffalo, deer, elk, caribou, rabbit, salmon, duck, geese, and turkey, seals, and even whales. They live in Montana, North Dakota, and South Dakota. And this is my house that I made. Logan?
How did they travel with the teepee? Did they travel with the teepee?
They just put it in, they put it on the shoulder, and then when they go, they just put it on the shoulder and they just ride with it. And sometimes they have like trunks, and then they just put it in the trunk. Reagan?
What is the teepee thing called?
Your house. Oh, a teepee. Brennan?
If they carried the teepee, how many people would it take to carry it?
I'm gonna say about 2 or 3. Benson?
So, what did in the picture, their house is pretty big. So, did they have to, do they paint, what kind of art do they have?
They, sometimes they drew in, on the ground, and sometimes they drew in their house. Leroy?
How many how many people could fit in it, and if there was enough room, how many families?
I'm gonna say about 2, 3, and I'm gonna say 10 to 12 maybe. 12 maybe.
How long would it take for it to be set up?
About like an hour or so. Oh, just a little.
Since they didn't have guns, what do you think it would be like to hunt buffalo? How would that be challenging?
They had to follow them without making a sound because their horses' hoof was really loud on the road. So they would sneak up behind them on tall grass, and then they would get a good aim and then throw it at their body part or heart. So then they would kill it instantly with just one shot. Akima.
Where did they live in? What part of the state did they live in?
They lived in Montana, North Dakota, and South Dakota.
Okay.
Vincent?
Did they use like bows?
No, they only use spears. And the spear shards, they use like rocks, and then they use other rocks to like
Sharpen.
yes. Leroy?
What kind of clothes did they wear?
They were beaded clothes, and some they would use buffalo skin, and they would weave the beads into them for design.
So did they use deer horns sometimes for spears?
Sometimes, yeah. Logan?
What was their fastest way of transporting?
They the fastest way is probably like horses. Horses.
The Nez Perce live towards North Carolina, and the farthest they traveled was from North Carolina to a desert somewhere close. They traveled by horses, and they hunted with bows and like they looked. I don't know. The houses were called the lean-tos, and they hunted bear, and they caught a lot of fish, and they would eat bugs for protein, and I'll probably find that picture. And another way they would travel through water is their canoes. Their canoes could fit up to 20 or 15 to 20 people in their canoes. I've got your name.
Vincent.
Vincent.
Like how? So like if they were a child in the canoe, like would everyone have to help because how big it is? Like how big the canoe is? Like everyone has to paddle.
They would most likely not battle on their canoes, but there was certain times that they would. Most likely they would battle when they were on horses or on feet.
No, I mean like would they paddle?
They paddled. There would be a lot adults at the ends, and the kids would be in the middle, and they would have 4 of the things, and they would have adult right on the ends and then towards the middle
To make it even weight.
Yeah, and they would go faster because there would be 15 to 20 people on one.
Okay.
So, like, how long was it from North Carolina to the desert?
It took them about maybe a week, but they would stop in between for to sleep and get more energy and to hunt.
Yeah.
So throughout the days they would stop.
Yeah.
And that's the farthest they would travel was about a week to get to different places.
How much water would they use?
A week they'd probably use about, because a lot of people could fit in one of those, so probably about 20 cups of water a week, because they wouldn't want to use as much water, but they had to go through also a lot of water more than they wanted to, because there's so many people.
Yeah.
Zane.
What material was their house made out of?
They built their houses out of sticks, and kind of like if you're building a fire up, but they built it into like that, and they put leaves and the skin that they hunted from like bears and deers and buffalo, stuff like that. They would use that to keep it holded up and in the inside.
Okay.
Logan.
So did they only eat meat?
They ate more than just meat, but they would use a lot of meat. They would eat some fruits and vegetables that they can find throughout hills and stuff. Brindley.
How many, well, like, did they use forks and spoons and silverware to eat?
Nope, they would carve stuff out of like rocks and like deer horns and stuff out of wood for like silverware. Any more questions? Zane.
What type of wood?
Sticks and logs
Like-
that they find.
Like, would it be like an oak tree?
Just anything they can find, they would try to use as much as they can from outside before they actually looked around. Benson.
Like, how did they make the water healthy for them?
They didn't really make it healthy. They really just drink what they could really find. But sometimes they would take wood and like build it up, and like they would dump the water through. And if there's any sticky stuff in it, they would pick it out and then keep putting it through until the water was clear enough for them to see through. And right.
What do they do for fun?
For fun, they would most likely, what they would build was like, they would carve wood, really like logs, and they would lay them by each other, and they would pour water down them. So kind of like a slip and slide, but instead they would make it out of wood. Sounds like it hurt though. Brindley.
How old did the children have to be to hunt?
I couldn't find that, because I was actually looking for that. I couldn't find it anywhere. But I would think maybe 16 or older.
Like, what weapons did they have to kill? Like, with spears, bows, axe?
They use, like, they have sort of like an axe, but they would carve stuff out of deer horns and buffalo horns and stuff for their weapons, because they obviously didn't have like guns and stuff.
Yeah.
Any more questions? Good job, Reagan.
This is about the Pueblo tribe and where they live. They lived in adobe houses. What they would eat is corn, beans, and squash. What they would look like, it's kind of really small to look at, but it's right there. Their transportation device would be a Turquoise. This is a picture of their clothing. If you want to, you can compare Minecraft to real life. What they would create is pottery, and this is a little bit of the parts of a adobe house. And they would live in like Arizona. I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure New Mexico. And that's all I found. Any questions? Okay, you.
What did they make your house out of?
I'm gonna grab a paper for that.
Out of
Just try to remember what you can, and if you don't remember, just say you don't know.
It was like,
Come on back to the front.
it was like, straw, clay, and pretty sure that's all. They also made their house out of wood, because their house is very tall, and they needed some, what do you call it? What? They just needed something to hold their house up better. And yeah. Another thing.
I see the picture up there. Is that a picture of their cups?
This?
Yeah.
Well, it is what they would create. It's
It's like an art.
yeah. Logan.
What fruit do they eat?
Corn, beans, and squash.
Do they eat meat?
No. I would say no. You.
What animals pulled the Turquoise?
Turquoise?
Yeah.
Like, it's basically a dog sled, is what it is. So it's like dogs. Pulling a sled, like, Brinley.
Did they have to have a certain type of ground to build their house on?
You know what? I don't really know. I don't really know. You know what? Akima.
Well, it looks like that thing.
What?
Really?
This?
Yeah.
That's
What
a
was it made out
Turquoise.
of?
I don't really know, but I'm
Probably
pretty
like
sure it was like
wood,
wood. I know that it's
leathers.
wood and maybe like some sort of weighted bag, which is probably made out of cloth. Ryan?
Did they eat anything else except for those three sisters?
I don't really know. All I know is that they did not eat meat. Reagan?
Like, how would they, how do you say they travel?
Using a Turquoise, which is basically a dog sled.
And, how many, people would live in the house you built at a time? Like, how many people could live in there? And how many people could they, travel at a time?
I would say, about the house, I would say probably about 40 to 30 people at the most.
That's a big house. How many people could they travel?
I don't know, it didn't say that. Logan?
Could they take down their houses and bring it somewhere else?
No, it is basically bricks, is what it is.
So, did they have special horns that they would blow in, and if they needed, or did they
I do
make
not-
music,
no.
like a flute?
No. Ryan?
Did they have any guards around their house and animals or intruders want to get in?
I don't think so. Also, their house is really open. There's literally most of it is clay and holes. So, Miss Little,
What do you think it would be like to live in an adobe home on the inside?
maybe be a little crowded and maybe a little bit annoying to sound.
So, how do they keep themselves circulated and cool in the desert?
but pretty sure it has something to do with all the windows and stuff.
What encouraged you to make the adobe house?
Well, it's just that, I really wanted to. It was really interesting about the size and stuff, which I did not find out the size. Plus, because I wanted to learn about the people that lived in the adobe, which are known as people, the flood. Right.
Where did they get their source of water?
Food. In every food there is found water.
But if there's water in each animal, how would they drench it out and make it clean?
They don't eat animals. They would eat cornmeal and squash.
But how would they get their water?
It's just known that if you eat food, you get water from eating the food.
How did they grow their crops?
I don't really know.
Did they get it from the cactus water?
I don't really know. I didn't find any research about that. Logan.
How many families could you think could fit in an adobe house?
Maybe about 5 to 6. We are.
Tribe ate meat, beans, squash, dried food, and fish. The Omaha tribe made bead art and buffalo hide art. The Omaha tribe lived in Iowa. They used dog sleds to get around. The Omaha wear deerskin dresses, leather leggings, and buffalo hide robes. Omaha lived in hills with openings to get in. It was called the Prairie Earth Wall. Benson?
So how would they protect their homes from animals getting in there?
I'm not really for sure. I didn't find. Logan?
Did they also eat like Pacific type of fish?
It just had fish on there, and I didn't really see anything else on the other things. Leroy?
Could they trouble their house, and what name was the house?
Prairie Earth Lodge, and I don't think they could since it was just like a hole in a hill. So they're probably just making new ones. Zane?
What weapons would they use to get the fish?
I didn't find that either. It just kind of had the foods and stuff. Logan?
So what inspired you to make the house?
I kind of liked how it looked when I saw it on the little paper, and I thought it would be cool to like try to make it out of the stuff that we had. Benson?
How much people and how much families do you think they could fit in your
Well,
house?
it looks pretty big, so probably like maybe like 20 or 10 people in there.
How much families?
I don't really know. Maybe like 5 or 3. Reagan? Like if you lived in one of those houses, how do you think you would stay hydrated and stuff? There would probably be rivers and stuff around there, so I'm guessing they would just like take the river water and maybe clean it out. But like what I mean is like how would you like, I don't know how to explain it, but how would you stay alive if you were living out in the wild with hunting and stuff and moving around? I don't really know. I'm looking.
What was your transportation?
The dog sleds.
Was there any other way they transported?
I didn't find anything else.
They didn't walk?
Well, they probably did, but I'm pretty sure most of the time they used
So like they walked for like when they were hunting?
Probably.
Because they weren't just on dog sleds and just hunting then on dog sleds?
This one up.
Since their homes are built into the earth, how do you think that might have benefited the tribe?
I don't really know.
What do you think the temperature might be like in a hot summer on the
It would
inside?
probably be pretty hot since you're underground and stuff. It's not really underground since it's like a hill, but it would probably be kind of hot with like the layers of the dirt and everything. Same.
How deep would the house go?
Probably about the ground level because I think they just probably took like some sort of like shovel and then just like dug out like a whole thing.
Because I know that if you...
Reagan?
How tall and how long would the house be?
It looks pretty tall in the picture. I guess it just kind of depends on like what hill they use, I guess. And I don't know how long it would be.
I mean like just, not like the hill or the grass or the dirt, just like the main house, like with the wood and leaves and stuff that you build.
Maybe like 10 feet, I don't know. Logan?
What did they build their houses out of?
I think they just used hills. I didn't find that. And it looks like they used some like logs and sticks and wood. Benson?
So, how would they keep their dogs, or their wolves, do they have like a storage place to keep all their pets and
They
transportation?
probably just leave it in their house, and I'm guessing they just use like the actual sled. Like they probably just put it like outside of the house. I'm guessing. Any more questions, Zane?
What type of dogs would they use for the Turquoise?
I don't really know. It didn't have that. It just said that that's what they use. Native American they usually ate Arctic char, which is a type of fish. They also ate seals, polar bear, and caribou. These Native Americans live in Alaska, Canada, and Greenland. They transported by sleds and skin-covered boats. They lived in igloos. McKinley, do you know what they would use to like hunt the polar bears since they're like so big? I would think they use spears or arrows or something. Okay. Thanks.
What part of the world would they live in?
Probably like old
What parts of the...
I think she said Canada.
Yeah, Canada, Alaska, and Greenland. Benson?
So, how would they, the polar bears, I see the picture of the igloo. So if the polar bear does an attack on them and they destroy the igloo,
I wouldn't usually think so, because
how would they like to protect their homes from that?
I honestly don't know. I didn't find that. Okay.
Do polar bears even live in Canada, Alaska, or Greenland?
No.
What it said.
Logan. So, do they only eat blueberries?
No.
Mostly.
Seals, caribou, and Arctic char, and they got their water from, I would think they got their water from the mountains that they live by, and it's frozen there. Right.
How did they, what house did they live in and how did they travel?
They lived in igloos, and they traveled by sled and skin-covered boats.
What's a skin covered boat?
It's probably used by animal skin and stuff like that.
What temperature would it be over there?
I don't know. Something probably.